Hi everyone. We're working on app number 3 in this video, and this app is slightly complex in that it involves new concepts which you may not have covered before. And one of these concepts is called arrays. And arrays allow you to store lists of values. For example, could be a list of names, could be a list of tasks, list of items, anything that needs or needs to be stored in a list type of format will be stored in an array. So what we're going to do is, as as we have done in the past few examples, we're going to work through these completion tasks. Okay, and there may be some tasks here that you can work on independently as well. There are some optional extension tasks, and those of you that really want to extend yourselves, you can actually use this and go and proceed with the optional extension tasks. But in this video, we're not going to cover these. So the first thing to do, obviously, is to create the interface here. And you can see here that my interface is created. And what I have here, I'm just going to go through this quickly. I have a label here at the top, and then I also have a label here. And what I've done with this label is I've stretched it out. And right at the bottom here, I've changed the background of the label to a light gray color. And at the same time, what I've done is I've changed the number of lines, the property from the default of 1 to 0, and 0 will now give me an unlimited number of lines. And at the same time, I've changed the line break from, I believe it was truncate tail to word wrap. Okay, so these are the settings that you need for this label here. Then I have a few more labels. I have a label here for add new item, change item name, remove item, and then these are just some text fields here, okay, with some placeholder text. And then I have 3 buttons here, okay. And the idea here is it's going to give you a very basic shopping list type of app, and at the same time, it's going to demonstrate the ability for you to use the different features or functionality of arrays, or that's offered by arrays. Okay, so what I've done, you can find the code here. If you click on this, you can go to the code here. And what I've done is I've just taken this code here and I've copied this and pasted it into the view controller Swift file. I'll just show you that here into this file here. I've just pasted the entire contents of this file and just replaced it with the previous contents of this file. Okay, so just make sure that when you do it, you actually replace the entire thing. I'm just going to show you this again here. Copy this and then just paste. Okay, so you can see here that this is the entire contents of the view controller Swift file. So I'm going to go back to my storyboard here, and then I'm going to click on, if you don't see something like this here, what you can do is you can click on this and click on the assistant editor. Now, my Xcode has automatically updated to version 12. Not something that I really wanted, but it has happened. You should see something on your option here in Xcode 11.7 or version 11.3 or whatever version you're using. It looks like a left align button. If you click on that, and you can click on assistant, and that will show you your code and your storyboard in one place. I'm just going to hide some of these screens here. Okay, and the first thing I'm going to do is really just to connect these outlets up, right? Because we won't be able to interact with any of these objects if we don't connect the outlets up. So the first thing to do is to connect the label. This is the shopping list label. This is the new item text field. This one here is the change item index text field, and then this is the change item name text field. And then this one here is the remove item name text field, or remove item text field. And then we have some buttons, so some actions. So obviously this one here is to add a new item. This button here is to change the item. And this one here is to delete the item. So if we were to really run this app now, making sure that we're running it on an iPhone 11, you can see here I've changed it to an iPhone 11. If I was to run this app right now, you'll see that it works, but something is happening as far as the app is concerned, and we need to make some changes to the code. It's one of the logic errors that was introduced. So in order to add a new item, I'm just going to type in the name. So you can see here milk, and you can see here that it duplicates. It's doing it twice. And the other thing as well is it's really not usable at the moment because the previous entry stays in the text field. So you're going to want to clear this out. Okay, add some functionality to clear this out. And I'm just going to add some bread in here, add that. And you can see here, it's just duplicating this functionality here. And this is not something that we want. Okay, so what we need to do, obviously, because this relates to add new item, we need to take a look at the action that's responsible for add new item. So if we take a look at this action here, you can see here that whenever we click on the button, the first thing that happens is the item, whatever you entered in the text field is added to the array, and that's what we want. Then we have a for loop, and if you recall, a for loop is a type of iteration. It basically repeats something again and again until all of the options are exhausted. In this case, it will go over each item in this array, and it will keep on going over each item until it reaches the very last item. So what it's doing is it's saying for each item in the shopping list array, look at the shopping list label, which is this one here, and take whatever's in that label and add the item to it. I add the item from the array. And then we have this special character, which is the new line, which is what's giving us this carriage return, right? So you can see here milk, and then there's a new line, and it says milk, milk. There's a new line, it says milk bread. There's a new line, it says bread. So this is the /n. This is a special character. And then what's happening is it's actually adding the item again at the end. So if you really think about this, the item is being added multiple times, which is actually what we're seeing here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to delete this last plus item. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to rerun this. Okay, let's just rerun this and see if that fixes the problem. So here it is, bread. Okay, we have a single item now. Okay, and then milk. Now, it's a different issue. Okay, so what's happening right now is it's still being duplicated, but it's being duplicated in a different way. So what's happening is it's taking the value, whatever value we have in this label, and essentially it's repeating it. Okay, it's repeating the item in the label, and we want to address that. Now, we want to make sure that the array is working properly. Okay, so this is a problem here right now, and this is how I would fix this. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is check the array. Now we can at this point here, because it's at this point that the item is being added. So what we're going to do is we're going to print the items in our array. So we're going to go to print shopping list array. Okay, and we want to make sure that there's no duplication happening at this level, right? So whenever we click on the button to add an item, we want to make sure that duplicates are not being added to the array. Okay, because if we rule out that it's the array, then the only other thing that it can be is the actual label, and of course it is the label. I'm just telling you ahead of time. It is the label that has the issue, but we just want to rule out that it's the array. So what I'm going to do is just print out the array each time I add an item, and I'm going to click on the view menu, and I'm going to go to debug area and activate the console just so we can actually see. Okay, and I'm going to play this and activate the console again. So every time we add an item now, you should actually be able to see this in the console. Okay, so if I type in bread, add, you can see here that bread has been added and one item has been added. Okay, then if I type in milk, now what we should see when I click on this is only two items. We should see the previous item in the array, which is bread and milk. Okay, regardless of what it says in the label, just to rule out that it is the array. So you can see here that bread and milk, which is exactly as what we were expecting as far as the operation of the array is concerned. However, the label is giving us an issue, is duplicating um, the items. So we've ruled out that it's the array. So what we can do is we can really, at this moment here, if we were to, so whenever the button's clicked, it will add the item into the array, and then we can just get rid of this now because we've verified that the array is okay. And what we're going to do here is we're going to clear the label. Okay, so we're going to clear the label each time the button is clicked. And once we clear the label, it should reload everything there is from the array and output it correctly. So let's just take a look at this and rerun this. Okay, so here is, this is the first item here, bread, that's added correctly. And then let's just add T inside here and add that. And what we should see is just on the next line, we should actually see T, and it should keep the existing item and there shouldn't be any duplicates. And that is working as expected. Okay, let me just add another item here. And you can see here that we can now start building up this list. So this is now working. Back to here. And so we've configured the outlets. We've addressed the logic errors. Now clearing the text fields, you should know how to do this, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do this once again because I have shown you over the last few apps, but I'm going to show you again, okay? So remember that your code is run from the start, from the top to bottom, okay? That's the operation from top to bottom. So after it's gone through and it's output the information onto the label. At this point, what we can try and do is to clear the text field. So remember that the name of this text field is add new text field. So, or new item text field. This is the one here. You see, I'm hovering over this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say new item text field dot text. So the text value of the new item text field equals an empty string. Okay, so what will happen is every time this button is clicked, it's going to append the item, whatever items in the text field, it's going to append it to the array. It's going to clear the label, and then it's going to use a for loop. So this is going to iterate through each item in the array. It's going to go over each item, and it's going to output it onto the label with a new line. And then once it's done all of the items, it's going to clear the text field ready for the next item to be entered. So if I run this now, and as you can see, I'm not quitting the simulator. Okay, it's a key thing, making sure that you just click on stop. So here, if I type in bread, if I do this right now and click on add, you should see that the text field is now cleared. You can see here the text field is cleared, ready for me to enter another item. And this should be done for all of the text fields that you see inside here, making sure that you're referencing the correct text field name. Okay, so making sure that you're referencing the correct text field. So this is now done. So we've cleared the text field. So I've cleared one for you, and I'm sure you can actually do the rest. And this one here, adding a function which displays a default message in the label, e.g. shopping list is empty if the shopping list array contains no items. And it says here, in order to do this, you use a conditional statement against the count property of the array. Okay, so we can do something like this quite easily. We can use an if statement to do this. So what we're going to do, there's a few ways we can do this. And what we're going to do is we can create a new function. Okay, why don't we create a new function to do this? So here I'm going to call this func. Okay, it's short for function. And then I'm going to say, I'll just call it list items. Okay, list item count. Okay, list item count. this item count. So inside here, I'll just have an if statement here. So I'll say if, and then remember that the name of our array is shopping list array. So if shopping list array.count is equal to 0, so if the number of items in this shopping list array is equal to 0, then what we want to do is the label, we want to say shopping list label dot text is equal to, and then we want to say shopping list is empty. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that, and it's a string, so we can do that. Okay, so all it's simply doing is if the shopping list array dot count, if the count property of this array is 0, meaning if there's no items in there, just output shopping list label dot text. Shopping list is empty. Okay, we don't need an else statement with this. Okay, because the else statement is going to be handled by the functionality here when it adds the item into the array, and it's going to update the label. Okay, that's how it does that. So so we have this special function here. It's called viewDidLoad. Now this special function will load anything inside this function will be loaded the first time the app starts up. Okay, so what we're going to do here inside this viewDidLoad is we're just going to call this function here, right? We're just going to call this, so we're just going to say list item count. You can see here, this is how we run a function, okay? And the proper terminology to use is to call a function. So you can see here, I'm calling this function in viewDidLoad. So if I run this right now, what we should see, so when the app loads up for the first time, and it should check the shopping list array, and if the item count is 0, it should say, as you can see here, shopping list is empty, and then we can start adding items inside here. Okay, so if we say eggs inside here, if we add this, it will just clear that. Okay, now this is not a perfect solution, because if we go and remove this item, so we know that this is eggs, we know that this is at index 0. Remember that arrays are 0 based, so the first item in the array is at index 0, so we remove item 0. Wrong one, this one here. If we remove this, it should tell us that there's no items in the list. So I want to let you see, I want to let you guys try to figure that one out. How can we actually fix that? So if obviously when it runs for the first time, you can actually see it says there's no items in the array. But if we add some items and then we remove them, then it doesn't repeat that message. So I'm going to see if any of you can try to fix that. And going back to this, there's another requirement here. It says add a button to clear all elements in the array and clear the label. It should be quite straightforward for you to do that. Okay, removing everything in the array. There's a remove all function that you can actually use to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you what that function is. It's called remove all, and I want you to see if you can do that independently. And then finally, there's some duplicate functionality in here, right? So you can actually see here, if you look at this, which part of this code is being duplicated. Now, I know for sure that this line of code is being repeated multiple times. So you can see here, this is the item which essentially rebuilds this list in the actual label. Okay, so that's being grouped, it's there, and then you can see here, it's here as well, and you can see here, it's here as well. So what we can do is we can actually put this into another function, just like the function I've created here, and then call that function anywhere it's needed. Okay, so I've already given you an example here of how you can create a function and then how you can call a function here. This is how you call a function. Okay, just by typing out its name. So I want to see if you guys can do this independently by creating a new function which will take this, because remember this is being repeated, right? This line here, it's here again, and it's here again, and essentially anything that's repeated, and if we have code that's repeated, it's not really good practice. So we can replace these lines of code by just using a very simple function, just like we've done here. right, without an if statement, okay, just like we've done here. And I want to see if you guys could do that independently. And once you've done that, that is essentially the end of the requirements for this particular app. This is quite complex. It is going to take you a little bit longer to do. And what we'll do is we'll have a further discussion in class for those of you that are having issues.